the new Vortex UH-1 Gen II, this week on Mail Call Mondays. Mail Call Mondays is brought to you by MDT. If you need a chassis system for your precision rifle, check out mdttac.com. I'm John McQuay with 8541 Tactical, and this is Mail Call Mondays, the show that answers your questions about precision rifles, optics, and equipment. Actually, this will be an optic, and today we are going to do a really quick unboxing of the Vortex UH-1 Gen II. Now, we started to do a little bit more carbine stuff, and a lot of you guys have asked about this optic. I've used Vortex optics for quite some time, in addition with Night Force and Bushnell, and pretty much all the other top brands out there. But the UH-1 is an optic that I really have not spent a lot of time on. I got to shoot them out at SHOT Show several years back when they first released the UH-1, and it didn't really jump out at me as a really interesting optic at the time. There were some things that I didn't like about it, so I kind of glossed over it a little bit. Now I've been doing a whole lot more with close range carbines. I have a very similar optic on the Sig Sauer Rattler. That one has a Sig Romeo 8T, which is a same format optic as the UH-1. It kind of has that blocky 1X red dot sight kind of feel to it. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to unpack this guy, see what's in the box, and give you my first impressions of it. This is kind of a self-serving kind of thing because I really wanted to get the optic out quick, get it on a rifle, and get it in the field, but I was hurting for some Mail Call Mondays content and needed to get something out to you guys. So that's why we were doing an unboxing on Mail Call Mondays when we normally would not. Now, you notice the big Euro optic on the front of the box. This video is not sponsored by Euro Optic. I did go ahead and buy this optic with my own money. We purchased it off of Amazon through Euro Optic, or rather from Euro Optic through Amazon. I am going to leave a link down below both to Euro Optic and to Amazon. If you guys want to pick one of these up and you use that link, then it'll help us out a little bit, send a little money back to us. So that is your full disclosure. So without any more delay, let's go ahead and get the magic unboxing knife out, and let's see what we have inside here. Alright, now we'll see if we can not launch packing peanuts everywhere. So there is the box. No frills, no fanfare. My packing slip. Euro Optic did go ahead and send a sticker. Stickers are always nice, always fun times. So we'll set that aside. And here is what we get. So this is the UH-1 Gen II holographic sight. It actually says made in the USA with UK reticle. So if that is something that you are definitely looking for, then yes, the UH-1 is made here in the US. So simple box, got two halves. Got a nice card in front here, and this says, give yourself a hand. We did, two actually. Pick the perfect optic. We should know that we hand inspected it ourselves. So that means we should not get one that is DOA. Vortex is very well known for the warranty though, so I know if there was any problem with it, Vortex will definitely take care of it. Really simple product guide, user manual. It's nice that it's right there on the top. Fairly well designed, and it's nice. It's nice that it's small, easy to throw in your pocket, taking it out to the range. Presentation right out of the box is pretty good to go. We've got the optic. We have a battery. Thumbs up, Vortex. Thank you for including the battery. It is a CR123A battery, so most of us have quite a few of these hanging around, but it is nice that they did include it, and it is a Panasonic, so decent quality, not a off the side. They did include a lens cloth, And now here we go, the optic itself. And that is pretty much it. So, bonus to Vortex, no extra fanfare, no extra garbage in there. Just what you need. I don't like to pay a ton of extra money for packaging because we're just going to end up chucking it anyway. The only reason I keep packaging around is when we get something new in, I will hang on to it for just a little while until I actually determine that, yes, this is going to stick around. This guy is probably going to be a long-term test thing. We're probably going to fire several thousand rounds through it and bang it around a bit. So the box is not going to factor any resale value into the whole deal. Now when I look at it here, straight off the bat, okay, what I thought were scratches, I thought we had some scratches on it, but it appears to be some kind of adhesive, little strings of some kind of glue or something that was on there. It might have been something during the assembly, but that rubbed right off. We've got a nice flat black anodized finish. One of the things that really did catch my eye about this is the optic really feels wide open. You don't have that really harsh tunneling effect that you do get with some dot sights. So these are designed to be used with both eyes open, and when you do so, then your support side view kind of helps blur out the frame of the optic. You're kind of looking through the frame of the optic. So as thin as they can make that frame, the better. And this looks like they did fairly well. So let's go ahead and put the battery in and check it out. First thing I'm noticing is right on the battery door, as soon as I look at it, I got a negative sign. So right off the bat, I know that the little nipple on the battery is going to go down. That is one thing I really like when manufacturers put polarization symbols on it. No tools, just flip up this little tab and unscrew the battery compartment, and look at that. It is tethered, so no problems changing batteries in low light, changing batteries out at the range. You're not going to worry about the cap floating away and going by. It is a O-ring sealed cap here, it feels like. Yep, O-ring sealed. So it will keep the water out. Now, one nice thing about having a little thumb tab here, it keeps you from getting in there with tools and stripping out the threads or cranking that in too tight. So that's kind of nice. I will have to see over time if that little lever starts to get loose and starts to flip around. It does look like it has some kind of spring or something to retain it. No, it's a detent. There appears to be some kind of detent ball in there providing pressure on it. So hopefully we won't have any issues with that. Now we put the battery in and the optic immediately comes on. And one thing that I initially do notice about this is the same thing that I noticed about the original UH-1. The reticle is kind of a specular pattern. It's instead of a nice even pattern like you'd see with an LED type reticle or an etched reticle, this is made up by dots. So it is a holographic reticle. It's more like an EOTech than it is an Aimpoint. But the reticle does have a really pointillized dot pattern. Now it's worse if you try to look at the reticle itself. If you try to look at the reticle itself, then the dot pattern looks really, really harsh. But if I look up off into the distance, focus on something in the distance, and throw the optic up there, then it works a whole lot better. These optics are focused for parallax at a greater distance. They're usually focused at 50. If I pull out the spec sheet here, we'll see what we can give you on the parallax. It just says parallax free, and what that means is you don't have any way to adjust the parallax, but more than likely the parallax on this is set at 50 yards. Or 50 meters, they usually set them in meters. We'll figure that out before we do the full review on it. The big deal with this optic is the night vision settings now. Now, if we crank this all the way up on the top end, it's fairly bright. It's blooming. I can sit here and sight in against the studio lights that we have here, that although they're in soft boxes, they are still really bright. But I have no qualms that this reticle is going to be daylight viewable. When we turn it down on the other end and we go all the way down to the bottom, we do end up with it almost invisible. If I cover the objective of it and look through, then I can still see the reticle. So it will be fine for naked eyes in extreme low light. My preference for setting reticles, unless you're in a military environment where you know everything in front of you is a target, you really are going to need to identify a target before you're going to be justified in lighting it up. Before you're going to be justified in shooting at it. So in a law enforcement or an armed citizen environment, when you set the intensity of the reticle, you need to set it to a position that it's going to work with your tactical light turned on, and it's not going to wash out with the tac light on. So you're going to have it at a relatively high setting, whereas it would normally be blooming and it normally look pretty ugly to you just bare-eyed with the tac light off. So keep that in mind when you are deciding for your bump in the night home defense gun what level you're going to set that reticle at. Lower setting may work great. You may make your battery last longer, but the higher settings are actually going to allow you to use it with that tac light. Now, reticle brightness shouldn't really be a consideration for battery saving because the UH-1 does have an auto shutoff feature. Vortex was nice enough to set the auto shutoff at 14 hours. I really prefer something more along the lines of 16 hours that allows you to get through a double shift without worrying about your optic. But basically what it is if you haven't pressed a button in 14 hours, then the optic will go ahead and shut down, and then any button press after that will bring the optic back up and power it on in the last brightness setting. Not a huge big deal. Usually with my aim point on my patrol rifle, I would leave that thing turned all the way off, and as soon as I grabbed it, I would just roll the knob on. So with the UH-1, just know when you grab your rifle, you're going to want to hit that button to bring it on. It's highly unlikely that you're going to be in a single engagement for 14 hours when you are not going to touch the optic at all. In a military environment, I could see that would maybe be something you would need to keep in mind. But 14 hours I will take. There are some other companies out there that have set their optics at like an 8-hour power down, and that's really a bad idea, because right about the end of the shift, when you're starting to think about being done, your optic powers off. You're not thinking about getting it out, turning it on. That can be a bad deal. So 14-hour shutoff is fine. Now, one of the big differences with the UH-1 is we now have 4 night vision settings, and to access those, we press and hold the night vision button on the back here. It's labeled NV. When we push and hold the NV, it looks like it goes off, but the reticle just powers down into its night vision mode. You then can press the up or down to get through those night vision modes, and then press and hold the night vision button will bring you back into visible mode or out of night vision mode. So now you have your regular reticle visible again. Now, unfortunately, we're sitting here in the studio with bright lights on. I do have a night vision camera sitting here, but I'm not going to be able to look through it right now and figure out what's going on because we've got too much light leakage. It's going to wash out the reticle. So, not really a big selling point for me. Most of the time, I'm not going to be looking at the reticle through night vision. Usually, if you are running a monocular night vision setup, then I like to run the night vision monocular on my support side and use my strong side for aiming. And then your brain does this neat little trick where it will take both sight pictures and superimpose them. If you have to use the visible reticle. A better option is run binocular night vision and run an infrared laser on your device. But if you are going to mount something like PVS 14 behind the UH-1, you can kick it down into those night vision modes and not worry about messing with your image intensifier in your night vision, and it just works better together. You don't have to worry about blooming or any of that ugly nonsense. So if you want to mount a night vision device behind a rifle optic, then this is capable of doing that. Other real quick things is we do have a QD mount on here, just a simple locking throw lever. So we have this button in front, depress the button, flip the lever out, and you can go ahead and mount it on here. You do have an adjustment on the right hand side, so if you've got a rail that's a little out of spec, you can tighten or loosen it with that adjustment there and get it dialed in. Looks like we have a steel lug on the bottom to interface with your rail, so looks like that will work pretty well. The optic overall feels fairly robust. It does not really have any extra armor on it. I mentioned the Romeo 8T that we're working with right now has an actual titanium shroud over top of it. The UH-1 does not have anything like that. We'll see through some rough handling on if that actually is something that's needed or not. Now the adjustments, we have the adjustments on the right hand side here. We have the elevation adjustment here in the middle and the windage adjustment here towards the front. So both are on one side instead of having the traditional top and bottom. So they are marked right, and they did do something really nice on here. They did mark it 1 click equals 0.5 MOA. So you don't have to dig out your manual and you don't have to try to remember, etc. It's right here on the side. I really wish every optic manufacturer ever, especially for dot sights, would mark on their optic what the adjustment is. You get long in a class, or you have 20 different people in a class with 20 different optics, a bunch of officers that don't read the manual or keep the stuff with them, then being able to just look at the side of it right next to the adjustment screws and know what to tell an officer to move in order to adjust their optic, that is really nice to have. I do like on this that the controls that you're going to use the most take up the space on the back, so you don't have to remember which button on the side is which. I've got quite a few optics that have controls on the side, and when you're on the gun, you don't have access to those. You end up having to roll the gun inboard and look at them if you can't remember which side is which or which button is which. This is fairly easy on the back, and the legends are raised on them, so you can feel what each one is. So if you need to adjust it in low light, you can do so, but again, probably not that big of a deal because you're going to push the button and it's going to have an immediate change on the reticle anyway. The night vision button is centered and high, so I don't think you're going to run into a situation where you're going to mistake the night vision button for anything else. And also, if you just push and release on the night vision button, it doesn't do anything. It takes a long press on the night vision button in order to kick this into night vision mode. So overall, I think this is going to be a really fun optic to work with. I've got to get it mounted up on a rifle here and zeroed in. Then we're going to go out and burn 1,000 rounds or two through it and just see how I like it compared to some of the other optics out there. I have used aimpoint style optics for quite some time, where I have a front lens and a rear lens for one major reason is I work in a lot of inclement environments where we have rain, snow, mud, dust, dirt, all that stuff, and I don't really like open holographic style sights because there's really too much of a place for crap to get in there. Now, I know we use open emitter style sights on the handguns quite a bit, but my handgun usually, unless it is actually in my hand, is in the holster and it has a cover over the optic itself. So far, the only handgun sight that is ready for prime time that has front and rear glass is the Aimpoint Acro, and it has its own issues that we'll address in a full review video on that. But right now, the Vortex UH-1 Gen II is a really interesting optic. They are running street price right around $500. There are a couple of sales here and there right now, but street price is right about $500. So overall, I think you're probably going to get into a really good optic for that price. But this is just a first look. We will have a full review coming very soon. So that's going to be it on the first look of the Vortex UH-1 Gen II optic. If you guys have any questions or comments or anything that you are wondering about this optic, please drop it in the comments section below or send it to us on Facebook or Twitter so we can address that in the full review that will be coming soon. If you guys like the video, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe. As I mentioned, we did purchase this guy with our own funds, so if you guys like videos like this and like to see reviews of gears, please check us out over on Patreon. Your support over on Patreon really helps to keep projects like this going. And until next time, get out and shoot. As the trash truck shows up right about now. Almost every Monday. Perfect timing. Yeah, there is no way that we are sealing that noise out of this little studio.